how fervent their hatreds. Our posturings, our imagined self-importance, the delusion that we have some privileged position in the universe, are challenged by this point of pale light. Our planet is a lonely speck in the great enveloping cosmic dark.
Welcome, everyone, to the Bigger Picture Podcast. I apologize. We've been off for quite a few weeks. We had a little summer vacation things going on and
gotta take advantage of the warm weather.
But I'm Sean, joined here with Chris, who's got a couple injuries here.
A little banged up, so if you see that, don't worry, guys. I know we're all concerned. Oops, sorry. I'm fine. Just took a little spill. I'm okay. Everything's gonna be fine.
Was this a part of your vacation, or was this...
I guess, yeah. This just happened yesterday. I decided to spend the day with my fiance at Six Flags, New England.
The most dangerous place in the world, yep.
And everything went fine. We had a great day. We enjoyed the food and the beer fest that was happening, which was very lackluster, by the way.
Really?
It was like eight tents, like small tents, probably the size of this room, if not smaller.
About
and that was it.
A 10 by 10 room here.
Yeah, and I mean Six Flags is huge.
Yeah.
But anyway, I decided to embrace my inner child and run along this wall on the way out. You know, it was a wide enough wall, but I was wearing water shoes. And I slipped towards the end and did not catch myself in time, so I messed myself up.
Yeah, you did. If you could see, if they could see your legs pretty much look like
road rash.
Yeah, it looks like you got into a motorcycle accident for real. Like, it's kind of funny.
This one on my arm here probably should have got a stitch or two, but I'll be fine.
Yeah, you're tough,
whatever.
right? Who gives a shit?
Yeah, it'll heal up, leave a cool scar. I'll make up some story that's not true at all.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You know, how I fought off
got
a
attacked
dog
by
or
wolves.
something.
Yeah. It'd be cool. But all right, well. Anyway,
but we're back.
Yeah,
we're back.
We're here.
Full strength.
We're gonna try to be here more often. It's hard to kind of get scheduling just right, but we want to try to provide as much information to everyone as possible. And there's a lot of information that we want to share. And what's really cool about it is, as we're doing this show, like, things are happening. Like, I don't know if you saw in the news just recently, like, they just found water on Mars.
Yes, I saw a very. Not funny, but a well-placed humor. Neil deGrasse Tyson actually posted it. It's a Mars bar, like a candy bar, with a bottle of water on top of it. And then he, goes in to describe how they found it, how they don't think that it's been able to freeze because of salt levels. Pretty cool.
Yeah.
But it's definitely there.
So, like, something new that was just recent. That was, like, only a couple days ago.
Now, I mentioned this to you. We're going to get into the topic today, guys.
Yeah, for sure we will.
I mentioned to you earlier, did you see the news about the black, marble sarcophagus they found in Egypt?
Yeah, so...
And the red liquid that was in it.
I didn't hear about that, so I didn't know what was inside of it.
Everyone immediately was just like, drink it. Drink it. And
what?
I'm like...
What?
No! Why would you drink that? There was like 2 bodies in it.
Two bodies?
Yes.
Two bodies?
It was more than one skeleton. But there's this weird red liquid in it. Yeah, you can probably...
Yeah, I'm gonna pull it up.
Pull it up right now.
Continue. I'll pull it up.
Pretty interesting stuff. A red liquid, and immediately the entire internet was just like, drink it. Drink it. Like, what is the liquid? You into something amazing?
Oh, yeah, because...
You know what I mean? Like...
It hasn't been buried underground for how many years?
Fucking forever. I'm like, no way!
Yeah, it was a granite sarcophagus, right?
And I think they're claiming that the red liquid is like sewage that somehow was created by the bodies that were in there.
It says it was filled with skeletons and sewage water.
Ugh. Yeah, and everyone's like, drink it, drink it, drink it. Which, ironically enough, I guarantee you no one who said that would have drank it.
Oh, hell no.
Themselves.
They just want to film it and put it on the internet.
Yeah.
Because imagine this, right? All right, so imagine there's two videos on YouTube. One says, mysterious granite box found with bodies in sewage inside of it. And then the next video right up below it says, person drinks mysterious liquid found in sarcophagus. So you would have those two competing headlines going for in YouTube, and I'm sure more people will probably click on the drinking
That's
one.
Fair.
'Cause
that's fair.
That's just how it is.
That person would die.
So, do we know who these people were? Were they anyone of importance?
No, I haven't. I didn't A, look into it too deep in that, and B, I want to say that they're still looking into it. Like they don't know who yet.
Yeah, because
it doesn't seem to be anyone of supreme importance. But then again, why would you bury them in the same sarcophagus, and why a black marble one? None of the other ones are really like that. You know what I mean?
Well, it's granite.
Oh, it's granite?
Granite, yeah.
My mistake. Wrong mineral.
Because marble would be a little bit more impressive, I think.
Yeah, that's
yeah. Well, granite itself is really impressive because
it's huge.
It's not sandstone.
Yeah,
Sandstone's way easier to work with.
Yeah, still interesting to me, but not related to today's topic.
No. Yeah, we kind of got way off topic there.
That's okay. We're
whatever.
like 5 minutes.
We're catching up on things, you know.
Yeah, we've been away for a while. We got a lot to talk about. In other episodes.
Yeah.
But today we are going to get into a couple things. Which again, I said this to Sean upstairs.
Yeah.
Every time I have an avenue of thought that I'm like, this is cool, I come here and we do a pre-discussion before the podcast, and I'm like, that angle's way cooler. Let's take that.
Well, we originally were going to talk about, technically Lucifer the devil, and essentially the Lucifer experiment.
Yes.
And again, upon research that I'm doing for my own personal book, yeah, so it's my own personal stuff. I come across many different things, and I try to link some things together. And then when we do these shows, and when we start researching about certain things, it makes me go a little bit further beyond than what I already have. And what we ended up coming up with was, rather than doing that, we ended up coming up with the story of the eagle versus the serpent. And 'cause I think the reason why we wanted to do this is it ties in very well to the whole, I guess, the past few shows that we did. Well, one was with Nibiru and the Anunnaki, and the other one was with Landis. And it just, I guess the show just kind of morphed a little bit to kind of this.
Yes.
But we will talk a little bit of the... Actually, I don't know. Did we decide we're going to do Lucifer experiment on this or not?
I say we just go for it. The title, I guess, is still going to be working. We're saying Lucifer experiment, but that has so many subcategories that come into it that I feel like we can't just fully just call it.
We might just touch upon it. We actually might do a whole another episode.
Yeah, this might have to be a dual episode kind of thing. But which
will end up turning into a completely other show the day of anyway. So.
Yeah, of course, ever evolving.
Yeah. So if anyone's looking forward to that, sorry. Well, it'll happen eventually. So before we want to get into that, I did have this up. I don't know why I didn't show it up, but I will just show quickly the sarcophagus that was found, just so we can put that to rest. So there it is. But getting back to the whole serpent and the eagle, what? There's a lot of stories based on that, right?
Oh my goodness, yes.
There's myths from every culture. There's Greek. There's a Roman myth. There's the myths all the way going back to the Sumerian times with Enki and Enlil, but I don't know. It's hard to tell.
Where we're going to focus,
and that's where we're going to be at pretty much for the entire show. But I don't know if it originates from that or if these are other tellings of whatever same story that happened. But it's
hard to say.
It's hard to say. It's a pretty cool story, and when I was kind of researching, I guess technically how we got onto this topic is I was researching Lucifer and trying to find the original Lucifer. Who was he? Where did the story originate from? And I kept pushing it back and back and back and back and back. And I essentially got all the way back to, and it's crazy to say this, back to essentially the Anunnaki or the Sumerian gods, right? And what I come to find out is I found a common link that can actually be traced and brought up into today's times. Like even right now, as we are here in 2018, we could see evidence of this still being played out on the world stage.
Yeah, let's give some more recent examples.
Yeah. So, well, before we get into that, let's go back kind of to the beginning, right? Not all the way to the beginning, but just kind of give you a little bit of, I don't know, I guess a little bit of backstory. And it kind of goes with Enki and Enlil. And right now we're looking at the picture. These are just the Sumerian tablets of the depictions of the gods. You know, one thing that you could definitely notice is with Enki, you can see these, it's almost like water flowing out of him with like the fish. In a lot of cultures, he's actually known as like the god of the sea or the god of earth, or like he's been known as the lord of the earth. I think En means lord and Ki means earth. And same thing with Enlil, you know, lord of the sky. Enlil would be the sky. Mm-hmm. So Enki has this kind of like out of the ocean kind of like storyline to it. Like, so for like the Greeks, he would be more Poseidon than any other god. Like,
Right.
You know, we have like the stories of the Titans and like the three gods. You have Poseidon and Zeus and inside the belly, and then they divide up the world where Hades gets the underworld.
Right.
Poseidon gets the oceans, and then Zeus gets the land. Similar stories here, where Enki's kind of like the lord of the ocean, and Enlil's kind of like the lord of the sky or lord of the land. Similarities between these two actually go much, much deeper. And if you actually take into account their children and the demigods that were created based on this, you can actually track other demigods across other cultures. So, like Thoth would be one of the children of Enki, who's also Hermes in Greek culture, and so on and so forth. Like you could find, you essentially go pretty much get any culture and you can find whatever god that is.
Yes, and I want to highlight that. I want to highlight that for the listeners, viewers, or whatever, because no matter what religion you practice or are familiar with or whatever, like, there are representations of these two beings that we're talking about, whether it be Lucifer and God or Zeus and Poseidon, like you said.
Yep.
Or I don't know. I just think that's important to highlight.
It is,
so
and
that
this
people aren't just thinking devil god, you know.
Right. It's hard to get out of that because, especially here in America, where we're so, like, I would say primarily Christian, right? Like it's pretty much everywhere at this point. We like to think we're a huge mixing pot of cultures and things like that, but it's like vastly Christian across the board. So it's hard to think outside of like the box where when you say like, you know, God and the devil, it's not necessarily like the God and, you know, the fallen angel, the devil. It's more or less there's essentially a pantheon of gods, and there's two gods that kind of stuck out for these civilizations, Enki and Enlil, Enki being one side and Enlil being the opposing force. So the story with these two kind of go along where they were here to enslave the human race, essentially, right? To enslave them and have them work for us. Where Enki was more passionate, I guess, kind of going out and say like, no, you know, they're actually intelligent beings. We should allow them to have free will. And he actually would teach us some of the things that they would know. So like a lot of like the, you know, Thoth, or Hermes, the teacher, the bringer of knowledge, the, you know, the teacher of writing, the teacher of language, you know, everything that you could kind of separate ourselves from the animal world came from Enki. And that's like the story with there, where Enlil saying, no, they're just vile creatures and we were just going to use them to control them to...
Yeah, like we're better than them, we're better than
right.
them. Yeah.
So what ended up happening is they obviously had opposing forces. Enki said, no, this is the way I want to do it. And Enlil says, no, that's the way I want to do it. And they kind of separated and kind of pulled off and had essentially their own like little war, right? Mm-hmm. So obviously we're just quickly touching upon these things, and everything we know from this is only based on the cuneiform tablets that were found, and who knows if there's more to the story. But when you start looking at other scriptures like the Bible, the Torah, all those books that are out there actually have stories relating to this.
And that's what I was trying to say.
Yeah, to your point where you're saying like they all have some type, they all derive from somewhere. And when you're starting to say like, oh, there's nothing, I never heard of Enki or Enlil or, you know, any of these people from the Bible.
We're talking...
This is the Old Testament. This is...
so long ago.
Yeah, this is the Old Testament where...
Think of history like a game of telephone.
Yes. But here's the thing though, right? So the Book of Enoch, right? Have you ever heard of that before? Yeah. So the Book of Enoch is actually part of the Old Testament story. And it was actually really popular because they actually found like several tablets with the Book of Enoch. So somebody was out there, pressing into clay the Book of Enoch, so it had to have some importance to it, right? Mm-hmm. So obviously there's some importance to it, and there were many of them found, so there was obviously widespread. So the story is well known. For whatever reason, it is not included into the Bible. And it was left out on purpose. And this is kind of going back to where we were saying this is kind of the Lucifer thing, the good and evil, the kind of the twist of fate that is happening, and we're going to kind of unfold that a little bit here.
Go on.
Keep going? Okay.
Keep going, man. You're doing great.
All right. So stop me if you have any questions. I wish we were doing this live so we can actually have a live chat going on, and eventually we're going to get there. Internet is just not strong enough where we are right now.
But also after this month hiatus that we on, I personally didn't feel like doing a
live shit out. Yeah.
It was a good idea.
But I don't know. Maybe we'll do show notes and kind of put like footnotes in there as well for specific times for all these things. So getting back to the Enki and Enlil story. So these two gods, obviously opposing forces. One wanted the humans to have free will and to kind of develop on their own, where Enlil wanted to kind of enslave and control. Very kind of, I guess you could put a parallel to like almost like an Orwellian style like world even till today, where there's this one guy that wants to control everything, really, meaning like the greed. He wanted everything for himself, and anything that was going to oppose him, he was going to try to twist and turn to his favor. Where Enki was more or less very open, very receptive. Yeah, compassionate, receptive to the humans, saying, hey, we want to give you our knowledge, and knowledge is the key to the universe. And Leo was more or less go, no, you don't need that. Here's the steps to enlightenment, which would be producing matter and garbage and trinkets and things like that for them.
Yeah.
And you can see a parallel in how it worked. And if you watch previous shows, so the last show we did on Atlantis, I put forth my theory of the Atlanteans and Lemurians living together on Earth at one point. Lemurians coming primarily from the Pacific side of the world, meaning the East Asia and the Western Americas. So if you think of like the Native Americans of North America and South America, and the Asian cultures, so like, Japanese, Korean, Chinese, all the way down through the South Pacific. If you actually look at those cultures, they're very, they have similarities between them, even though they're vastly miles apart from the Americas and East Asia. But they have these similarities that are uncanny. Like, it doesn't make sense, and scientists have always thought like the out of Africa theory, where coming out of Africa, you go over the land bridge of the Bering Strait, the Bering Strait over Russia into Alaska, and they worked their way down. There's no fucking way. There's no fucking way like they would go all the way up there and down. We had boats, right? And we had boats for a very long time, and they were land masses that aren't necessarily there now. And some of those land masses, which maybe could be Lemuria, maybe it could be just a chain of islands that was grouped together on the Lemurian culture, but there were islands there, and there were definitely seafarers there. One of the biggest things about this kind of culture, or these cultures, the ancient American Indians and the East Asians, is they had a very similar creature, and the creature is technically a dragon or some type of serpent.
Serpent, yes.
Yeah. So, like, obviously Chinese dragon's very famous. You look at any Chinese New Year, they always have, the dragon going through the crowd and stuff like that.
The more Asian cultures, I find the serpent to be much more prominent in their religions and cultures than, say, the Native Americans or something. Like, it's there.
It's there.
Yeah.
It's definitely
totally there. Totally. No, I'm not disagreeing with you.
But I'm talking more or less the, like, if you look at the Aztecs, right?
Yes. Yeah.
They have temples of the serpent. They have statues. Yeah, Quetzalcoatl, Kukulkan. They all had the headdresses of serpents, these plumed feathers of these long, colorful feathers going all the way down to their feet. But it's the same thing with the North American ones too. They all had these serpent or snake or some type of being or culture of that. But then when you kind of flip it to the other side of the world, so if you kind of go like kind of prime meridian area, so northern Africa, a little bit of the Middle East into Europe, you have a very different culture there. It's a very materialistic culture. It's a very dominating culture. It's a warring culture. It's a very conquering culture. And we'll get a little bit into that as well. And one thing you actually notice about them, and this is kind of something what I was figuring out while I was doing my research, was I started to have my own patterns of my theory of Atlantis and Lemuria, where Atlantis is in northern Africa, where technically it was covered in water at one point and had kind of sets of like I guess rivers and oceans kind of more inward of Africa. Mm-hmm. And eventually with the Younger Dryas period and everything like that, shit happened. And
things changed.
Yeah, things changed. Atlantis sunk. People had to migrate out of there. So with my theory of Atlantis being in northern Africa, Lemuria being in the Pacific somewhere, you're going to have these major cultures kind of warring and kind of being different. And I started to think of the parallels between Enki and Enlil. Because Enki has a very Lemurian style to him, where Enlil has a very Atlantean style to him. Atlantis being this power-hungry culture where they had immense machines and statues, and they had all these things that they made, where Enki was more or less more one with nature, kind of...
Yeah, shamanistic.
Shamanistic, yeah. Where you don't need these trinkets or these things to actually...
The power came from within.
Within, correct, yeah. A higher consciousness, where Enlil was more... No, we get our power from our abilities to create.
Our products, or
yeah,
machines, or
our iPods,
inventions, yeah.
So when I started kind of having this theory, I put this theory in the previous show. So if you want to learn more about that, we can go to the previous show and see that. But one thing I noticed is with the dragon or the serpent on the other side of the world, on this side of the world, it was the eagle. It was always the eagle. And when you start to kind of look at how the culture's formed, when you kind of take, so let's say like Atlantis, right? Atlantis maybe transforms into, kind of what we thought of ancient Egypt to be, right? Ancient Egypt, very linear, kind of, you have your pyramids that are straight edges, everything's straight edge, right? But they worship sky gods, right?
Yes.
The sun, the sky gods, right? That kind of transforms into, let's say, I guess it was Phoenician, then it will go into Babylonian, or Babylonian is actually before Phoenician, and then it goes into, let's say, Rome. Rome was probably the next major civilization.
Yeah.
Their empire covered pretty much all of Europe, into northern Africa, well into the Middle East, essentially exactly where you find eagles everywhere. And their major symbol was the eagle, right? It was the golden eagle.
And they happened to migrate to other parts of the world.
Very far. And if you actually find their migration, so up through Europe, if you actually look at all the European flags, and I'll actually pull up a photo of those flags as well, you will start seeing just eagles. Like these are just, I just typed in eagles and flags and...
Double eagle flag?
Double eagle flag. And obviously some of these are Polish, some of these are German.
But this one tab that we have open of the double eagle image search, right off the bat, flag of Albania, double eagle. Flag of Austria, double eagle. Russian coat of arms, double eagle.
Yeah.
Unbelievable amount of flags have eagles or double eagles on them.
Right, and you would say, well, obviously they're from... yeah, they're all from the same culture, right? All from the same area within Europe, and of course they're going to have eagles of different, forms and factors as they spread out. But it's kind of ironic that the eagle is kind of the symbol, right?
Yep.
So, like you said, when there was, I'll pull up some photos of some maps. So if you go to the first map where it has a lot of blue, this is kind of what I was talking about. If you were to put, obviously the Pacific Ocean in this is actually cut off on either side. Mm-hmm. But if you were to kind of imagine the Pacific Ocean being the center point of this, you would see blue on either side. So think of that as the Lemurian cultures. And the Atlantic cultures would be in the red, and then you can kind of see a little bit of overlap of kind of like a light pink. So
or the Enki and Enlil.
The Enki and the Enlil, yes, correct. So like this is how it would have been in probably like ancient world, ancient culture, kind of. A couple thousand years ago. This is obviously just a depiction of how the cultures would have been. once you started getting the eagle going, so once Rome got going, fell, and then other powers started taking place, mainly Christianity, right? Catholic and
came over to
North America, things started changing. So the eagle, the mentality of the eagle is to conquer. Conquer and spread.
And we didn't come over and we're nice to the Native Americans, were we, folks?
No. And this map kind of shows you how the culture has changed and the clash of the eagle versus the serpent. And this is kind of where we are pretty much today. And if you notice that there's a lot of the Asian cultures that still have those mentalities. A little bit within the jungles of South America, and then I believe that's also Chile over there on the side.
Real quick, this makes me think of something relevant.
Yep.
So a couple of years ago, 2015, 3 years ago, sorry, I'm working in LA. I worked at a Chinese hot pot restaurant as the manager.
Yep.
Tiny little restaurant. It was just me and a server, and then
good
two
food
folks in the kitchen all the time. Awesome.
It's always like the best
Both
food.
of the
small
cooks
places
were. One of them was from El Salvador, the other one was from Mexico, and they cooked bomb Chinese food.
That's the weirdest thing.
Well, they learned from my boss's ex-wife, who was from China and like knew how to cook all that. Anyway, I became very close with one of the servers who was native from China. His American name was Park. Zhang Zhu something, I believe, is his like Chinese name.
Yeah.
But I still talked to him recently. He got married. I talked to him maybe a month or so ago. But he was telling me one day.
Still live in America?
No, he's back in China now.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
He's back in China, and he was telling me about, I don't remember how it came up. I was talking about how we measure IQ here, yada, yada, yada. And I think I've told you this before. But he was saying, he's like, well, what's your EQ? And I was like, what's my equilibrium? Like, what do you mean?
What's EQ?
What's EQ? And he's like, what's your emotional quotient? And I was like, what is that? And he goes, you aren't taught about that here? And I said, no. And he said, oh, in China, we're taught about intellectual quotient and emotional quotient.
Really?
And that to me,
wow.
Maybe you guys aren't gonna follow my train of thought here, but the fact that China has an emotional quotient and they measure that and take it seriously, that's a very Enki thing to me.
For
more
sure.
compassionate,
For sure.
more
Yeah.
like free-willed, like yeah. So interesting.
Very
recent too.
Really?
Very recent.
That is.
But I remember being blown away, like, what?
Yeah.
You're taught about this? Like, we're not at all. Like,
as Americans, I feel like we just don't know anything. Like,
well, I mean,
it's so clouded.
We're a workhorse of a country. Like, our country is a business. We're getting off topic, but our country is a business.
But are we getting off topic? It's very Atlantean.
You're
it's
right,
very
you're right.
Enlil.
It's related.
Right? And it's the eagle.
Yep.
The American
Bald
eagle. The bald eagle. We are it. And what's funny about this, too, is, like, when you start to think of the conquistadors, right? They're really the ones that kind of shaped South America, where the Aztecs, the Mayans, larger cultures were there. There were a lot in Central America up through the southwest of North America as well, and technically Spain owned that area as well at one point in time. And when you start thinking of like Pizarro and Cortez coming over, they had a mentality of just take. Like you said, it's a business. They came over with a business mentality. A business mentality to take the gold, take the land, take everything.
And a business mentality, generally, if you really sit and think about it, is kind of like an Enlil mentality. And like
100%.
Because in business, it's very cutthroat. It's just, well, it doesn't matter if I have to fire this guy and his life is ruined because he can't support his family or whatever. Like, right. It's business.
It's all for the end goal.
And how many people say that? Oh, it's just business. No hard feelings. It's just business. That's because there is no feelings in business.
So I wonder how... You should ask...
This is turning out to be a way cooler podcast.
You should ask your friend Park about how business is done in relationship to the EQ. Because
I can do that totally, but one thing within that same conversation that he was talking about was that people with high EQs in China are the most successful.
Really?
Yes.
We need to learn more. I need to learn more about this.
Yeah, I'm happy
The
to spark
EQ.
that thought in your brain.
That's awesome. Okay, so yeah,
All relative. All relative.
I never knew that. And that's amazing. Like you said, like their culture is embedded in that. Like if you look, back at the map again, you could see, a little bit of the blue is still there.
Still there, yeah.
Because that's just how their culture is, and it's been there for thousands and thousands of years.
And they're also a very up and coming, like, superpower in the world.
Yeah. And
so who knows? Maybe we're about to have a shift.
Consciousness shift.
Yeah, because China seems to represent more of the Enki mentality. They're more compassionate, like more one. Like their cities too. They have so much more nature in their cities than we have over here.
Yeah, they also have way more pollution too.
Right, but they've worked on that significantly in the past couple decades.
So, all right, well, you obviously had firsthand experience with talking to somebody that lived in China and America.
Yes.
Do you know why he went back to China?
Yes. When he moved over here, his whole... this is kind of funny. The whole reason he came over here was to learn how business is conducted here.
Holy shit.
And
really?
Yeah.
He had to
bring
learn
that knowledge back
the
to
Enlil ways.
China. Yeah.
What the... This is actually a really cool podcast.
Yeah. So he must have finished... Like, he told me, like, I'm only going to be here for a couple of years, and, like... So this guy spoke very broken English, and, like, there were definitely times where where it would take 30 seconds or so to be like, wait. And I'd have to figure out a different way of saying something to him, or try to figure out what he's trying to say to me. Like, but... Again, still on topic, this person was a very and all of the people that I worked with... Like, even my boss, who ended up firing me for a stupid reason, it's a whole other podcast. He was a very, all the Chinese people that I met through that job were very, nice, compassionate, the guy's mother would come in and, deliver, supplies for the restaurant. And she didn't speak a lick of English, but she would, try to teach me Mandarin. And, all of them were just so nice. I never met a Chinese person that, when I worked there, that was rude or mean or, snooty or whatever. And if I did, typically they were Americanized.
Goddamn.
It's on topic still.
Yeah, it really is. And the whole serpent and the eagle, I feel like it's almost like an invisible war going on.
It absolutely, I'm just saying this now.
Now I sound like Alex Jones.
It is, because if you think about how the suppression of just serpents in general, the fear of snakes, dragons being represented in movies as big and scary and just bad, or hoarding treasure.
Hoarding treasure, yeah.
There's it seems like this underlying... effort to make serpents seem evil or feared.
Yeah.
Like the devil being represented as the serpent in the tree.
Right, and this is how we got on this topic.
Exactly.
Because we were going to talk about Lucifer, and is Lucifer Enki?
I think so.
Right?
I think so. I think they're
because if you had this conquering mentality, you are going to put your faith, your beliefs in place, right?
Yes.
And you're going to try to overwrite, and history. This is not a theory. This is truth. When cultures took over another culture, they tore down whatever was built, right? Sometimes they would reuse, maybe change a facade of a building. The building's there, just change the facade. But even today, look at ISIS, right? Which is ironic name, or ISIL, whatever you want to call them, the terrorist group in Northern Africa. They're going around and they're blowing up all these old archaeological sites. Yeah. And it's sad.
Almost trying to destroy
that
history or data.
Exactly. And what's the meaning behind that? There's nobody there, and obviously it's a terrorist act for them to gain attention.
And let's loop this back into the Christianity thing, how Christianity is the most prominent religion
in America,
in the world, I might say at this point.
Is it? It might be Muslim.
Oh, that's fair. That's
Yeah.
fair. But let's stick with Christianity for a second, because that's the one
It's one of the big ones.
More familiar with. And if you were to rewrite the Emerald Tablets or the Old Testament to the New Testament, you could be a totally different group. Like you've already said,
they've been
I'm just
conquered.
regurgitating information here to try to
Well,
have the viewers know where my train
just
of
look at the
thought is.
Romans. The Romans crucified Jesus, right?
Yeah.
For spouting his bullshit that they thought, and then eventually
And being nice.
Eventually, Rome is like the center of like Christianity. Like Italy's the center, like the what the hell's that? I can't think of the place now.
The whole point in the whole direction I was going with in this is because you were saying, is Enki Lucifer?
Mm-hmm.
If you were to rewrite history as Enlil or God instead of Lucifer, whatever, but let's stick with Enki and Enlil. If you were to rewrite history as Enlil or his mentality or whatever, why wouldn't you change the names of things that you are, even your own, to manipulate you to think it's totally different than Enki and Enlil?
And that's why we have Zeus and Poseidon.
Exactly.
That's why we have...
And that's why the game of Telephone, the history game, was kind of important to this snake versus eagle war. I'm really a believer in this, man, and this just happened today.
Yeah. yeah.
It's incredible.
We just talked about the one thing that you even came up with was Prometheus, and I'll throw up a picture of that. Like you said, like he's perpetually chained there.
Punishment, yep.
And then the bird, the eagle or whatever is eating him every single day, and he has to he regens and goes, and that's the mentality of the eagle, right? We're always going to dominate. We're always going to take what you have. And it's just another, is that just another story of...
Well, I think that could absolutely just be another Telephone thing of Enki and Enlil, because the story of Prometheus was that he gave man fire, and the gods were bullshit about that. Now, if you think about it, if you're giving man fire...
That's knowledge.
That's knowledge. That's good. They cook food, stay warm, create energy,
protection from animals.
It's good. Yeah, and it can destroy too, but mostly it's a good thing. So why was Prometheus punished so brutally?
Is he a former of Enki?
Let me just fucking eat out your liver with a fork and knife every day. It'll grow back. And I'll just do it again the next day. But it was an eagle. It wasn't a wolf. It wasn't a boar. It wasn't a goat. It wasn't a serpent. Why not something evil seeming, like all these serpents or spiders or whatever that they try to make seem so bad? Why not that? It was an eagle. And that to me is a direct representation of...
the domination.
Well, not only that, but the suppression of knowledge.
Yeah, absolutely.
From the eagle or Enlil.
So, even think of places like the Library of Alexandria, right? Who knows what the fuck was in there? There could have been all these stories. There could have been original books of Enoch. All this stuff that could have been in there, and burned down, right? We lost knowledge, right?
All the book burnings.
Yeah, all the book burnings. Yeah, throughout history, right? Even then, when Gutenberg makes the freaking the printing press, right? What does he make? He makes the Bible, right? Why does he make the Bible? So he can reproduce it and spread it. And it's the same thing. It's like you said, all these cultures come in and they conquer, and then they kind of put their own twist and stamp on it. But obviously, if you're the conqueror, you're going to write yourself as the hero. So
Exactly.
Right. So,
and that's why Lucifer is depicted to be the bad one, even though he just wanted Adam and Eve to have free will.
Yeah, exactly. The snake on the tree in the Garden of Eden.
Lucifer.
Right. So, by eating the apple, would you have gained the knowledge?
Well, I think...
Or is there knowledge to be gained?
Well, doesn't the story go that they had never eaten before they ate the apple?
I don't know. Do they need to eat?
Yeah, they didn't need to eat or something, and then they ate So, like, the Bible kind of depicts it as, like, they were greedy and, like, needed to have more. So they, you know, wanted to eat the apple because they weren't supposed to or whatever.
That sounds like a crock of shit.
It does sound like a crock of shit.
Because if you had an entire fucking garden and they're like, yeah, don't eat this one apple, and you're like, all right, whatever, I got a fucking entire garden to eat. Right?
Yeah, and it almost seems provoked.
Correct.
Like if you're
like,
a
how
god
dare you?
and you create the Garden of Eden and there's a tree that you don't want anyone to touch, why even say anything about it?
Remember, it's a tree.
Well, yeah.
Right?
Why say anything about it? Like, you're just drawing attention to it.
It's the tree of life.
Motherfuckers. Anyway, let's get back to this. Alright, Enlil, Enki, the Snake and the Eagle War, Lucifer, the Lucifer Experiment. Pick it back up. I'm having a brain fart.
Okay. So, again, like I said, this is kind of like an invisible war going on. You touched upon suppressed knowledge, right? And again, if you were to write, if you're the one writing the books, if you're the one writing the history, you're going to paint yourself or your god or whoever is in charge as the hero and depict whoever the enemy is as the enemy or evil or whatever. So it kind of goes back to, and there's other stories that kind of take place in this too. Even like the story of the goddess Sophia, where she was just consciousness, created the demiurge, meaning Lucifer, who then created, you know, earth and matter and all this stuff. And if you actually take that story and you unfold that even further, the same thing happens. Sophia, this kind of everything being, the being of light, the being of consciousness, ends up being kind of villainized as well as Lucifer for creating the havoc that is. And every religion or every culture probably has this. There's a pendulum that swings, right? There's got to be, I think, I would assume, depending on who conquers who, some god is getting lifted and some god is getting suppressed. And eventually, I think, over time, Enlil is his story is starting to become greater and greater and greater, and that's kind of depicted in the maps that I was showing before, where, you know, you would have the blue, where that might have been Enki's influence. Over time, ended up turning into Enlil because of just his thought mentality and in the conquering ways.
Yes, but and this is kind of on topic, kind of not. I think that, like, it's starting to flip over back to Enki.
Right.
I think it's still very much Enlil, but I think it's getting towards that.
And I'm wondering if the internet has something to do with it.
Yes,
because
I absolutely do. Because you're sharing, you see so much more good being done.
Well, a lot of shit too, but...
Well, yeah, but the shit is thrown in your face. It's like, look at this bad thing that happened.
You know what it is?
9/11 happened. The whole fucking world knew.
You know what it is?
What?
It's the truth. And sometimes the truth is shit, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of bullshit on the internet as well. But
right, absolutely.
But almost always the truth does eventually come out. Because there's people out there that read something or see something on the internet and they're like, what the fuck? That's not what happened. And they have a platform and a position to oppose that, and then eventually the truth usually wins out. And maybe, like I said, if the internet is the turn, it's almost like a artificial kind of global consciousness, where, like, we're doing this show, we put this on the internet, right? Somebody somewhere down the line maybe clicks on this show by accident or whatever, never even heard of Enki and Enlil, the Anunnaki, suppressed history, none of this stuff, right? Watches our show and goes, what the fuck, these two bozos, what the hell are they talking about? They don't know anything. And then he goes, you know what, maybe I should look a little bit into this. Starts typing on, keyboard, pulls up, a tab, new tab, and starts going down the rabbit hole a little bit and goes, holy shit, maybe this is all connected somehow. Right?
That's how it starts for everyone.
And
that's how it started for me.
That's how it started for me too. Like, it's because you have these. What's weird about it is, like, I kind of knew very early on my position in the world, right? When I was very, very young, like between like 5 and 8, somewhere around there, I was very opposed to religion, to the major religions in the first place. I grew up a hardcore Catholic. Parents went to church every Sunday. Went through, the schooling, communion,
CCD,
all that shit, all that shit, right? In the meantime, I was absorbing that, taking that in and saying, okay, let me think about this. Let me philosophize about these stories that you're telling me, and then let me compare the other knowledge of other cultures on the other hand. And then when you start kind of putting it together, you start piecing together a narrative that is happening that is not necessarily what's being taught. And the issue I always had with this is, in like, I'm sure you went through like CCD and all that stuff, right?
Oh yeah.
And if you question anything about it, what do they give you? They always either give you one or two answers, right? They either give shit about it and just be like, no, this is how it is, just drop it, or they just say you gotta have faith, right? They never give you an explanation why. They never give you anything beyond what is in the Bible. And I
don't want to derail you, but I think this is profound because I grew up the same way. My grandparents, my mother's parents were very religious. Like, God, I mean, pretty much until they were too old to, they went to church every Sunday.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They were very religious. Put baby Jesus in the manger before you go open your presents at Christmas, all that stuff.
Yeah.
But I went through CCD, I got confirmed, all that stuff, but I never cared. I did it because I thought, okay, this is something I have to do, fine, I'll do it. I never cared. I never cared about, looking into it, But when I first started learning about all the anomalies of the world or anomalies of these ruins and then the possibility of intervention from extraterrestrials or the Anunnaki, and once I started thinking about those, it was something inside of me was that is something you have faith in. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And that's what happens.
Yes.
That's what happens to everyone that gives these topics the time of day.
And that's what I was trying to get to. It was like when I was at that age, I was like, this doesn't sound right. And then as I got older and started learning more and more and more, you start to understand how the world actually is and how it actually works. And what you see is not necessarily what is reality or what is the truth. And I think with the internet coming around, even the small things, look at cops, right? Look at the police. Look how they're behaving now, compared to what they used to be. Now that they're wearing the cameras, there's millions of people out there with cameras in their pocket right now, right? Everyone has a camera on their phone. Everyone is able to shoot footage of something happening, and it's kind of sort of correcting certain behaviors in a way, certain oppressions in a certain way. But on the other hand, it's also making it more Orwellian, more Enlil as well, where it's kind of trapping us. So it's hard to imagine, the internet kind of swings, like I said, it's a pendulum. We're giving it one way or the other, and it's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out. I feel like we're on, I guess, Team Enki, right? So
yeah, we're on Team Enki, but you're talking about the pendulum swinging stuff, but it's duality.
It's absolutely duality. But
in Enki, in a different
light and dark, right?
I don't know how to describe it.
As above, so below. It's ingrained in every
yin yang,
every religion, every major religion out there, every minor religion out there always has the opposing forces.
These truths, going back to the truth always finds a way to come to fruition, expose itself.
Right.
These feelings that I get, or that a lot of these people get when they start considering all these instead of the shit that someone else has been trying to make them believe, and that's profound to me. That's it's the truth is being hey, shaking you hey, I'm finally glad you're here.
and the stuff that we're talking about, it's some people will be like, oh, you're crazy. None of this is real. They're just
not listening.
Yeah, you're finding weird shit on the internet and you're trying to piece things together. Yeah, a little bit of that, but it's also reading scriptures, reading religious 100%. Books.
I'd rather do that than have someone tell me what to believe.
Right, and it's going through and saying, okay, I'm going to read a little bit about this religion, read a little bit about that religion. For me doing my research on my own personal book that I'm writing, I have an actual book that compiles all the major gods in all major religions, and it has like all the mythology stories and everything like that. Because when I come across something I've never heard before, I try to reference it back to these core stories. And a lot of times you will pick up parallels based on other religions or other stories, and then you start to think, you go, okay, could this actually be real? You know, how could a culture in South America have similar stories than a culture in East Asia, right? That doesn't make sense. So it's
makes sense to me.
Right, but when you start going a little bit further back, because the issue with it's the suppression of knowledge. It's 100%
Exactly.
that, right? We even have the our timeline, right? The BC and the AD, right? Some people say it's the before Christ, after death, or the what is it? The before whatever. Or I can't remember what it is, but usually it's the before Christ, after death,
yeah.
meaning that is year zero. Like we're starting over, hitting the reset button. We're starting over. If you start over like that, well, what the fuck is the last 50,000 years plus mean, right? You're literally hitting the reset button and starting over. And the issue is that even with us in America, we're just descendants of Europeans. We're descendants of the eagle culture. They're just going to suppress everything with their own religion, the monotheism religion. Because Enki was always talking about, you always have everything within yourself, right? You don't need anything more than essentially your own consciousness and your own self-awareness, right? Where Enlil is saying, no, he's wrong. It's like, you need to believe in God and you need to be, the person on earth as best as you can be, behave.
I am your God. You are not your own God.
Correct. Yeah. You're not God, right? And it's a very strong monotheistic mentality where there's only a singular person that's in charge and that's it. And unfortunately, we live in a culture that is much like that as well. And, America being primarily Christian, they have that mentality. And like you said, with your friend Park coming over, he came over to learn business.
Yeah, he didn't come over here to learn compassion.
But what's weird about it is like I would consider myself a pretty educated person, right? I'm a pretty intelligent guy. I wouldn't have thought that somebody coming from China would even do that emotional quotient. Yeah, because like everything we've always been taught about China is they're the enemy, they're the evil ones, they're bad,
Weird.
They're communists. Yeah. Obviously, the communism things kind of faded a little bit after the new regimes come in and stuff like that, but they still kept those values, even through all that. Even through the communism, even through the freaking, the horror show that was there with Mao, right? Like, they still kept that mentality, and we have this mentality of, like you said, it's a fucking business. That's all it is. It's a fucking business.
It absolutely is. It's all about money, and money rules this country.
What's on our dollar
bills?
bills?
That's why lobbying is a thing, and that's why the fucking president of the United States is a billionaire. Like, instead of someone like Bernie Sanders. And I'm not going to get political, but Bernie Sanders isn't a billionaire, and he clearly gives a shit about all these people.
He does.
That's more Enki mentality. Like, but anyway, I'm not getting
in a very off-put. Yeah, in a very
yes, in some facet.
I guess it's an Enki mentality in a very Enlil system.
Yeah, which, I mean, this is the world we live in. We live in an Enlil world. Like, so we have to find our own... And we've grown up with Enlil values and codes of operating.
It's been the dominant culture. It's been the Atlantean Enlil dominant culture for the last...
So we're trying to talk
700-800
about Enki
years.
And trying to...
And everyone's
get
like,
this voice of Enki and like be more Enki, but we've been Enlil our whole lives, so like it's hard. So yeah, I am trying to. It is him being kind of Enki in an Enlil environment and world, but like that's the world.
Yeah.
But anyway, but business. It totally is a business. It totally is a fucking business, and that is why we are run by Enlil. But I want to get into because you kind of brought it in without the viewers knowing about how Enki is always talking about like your power coming from within, whereas Enlil's like, no, I'm your god, like your power lies you're within the outside of you. Well, that sentence didn't make sense, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Because the Merkaba and getting into
right, the Lucifer
self-power, the Lucifer experiment and all that, like being now Enki again is saying that all your power lies within you. Now that's a very Merkaba thing, and we did discuss this.
Well, because yes, we did, and there's two trains of thought. There's a natural Merkaba and an artificial Merkaba, where a natural one is created out of essentially love, right? It's
yes.
your
and raising your consciousness
and being essentially one with everything, being
the universe,
the universe, right? And an artificial one would be something like, think of it as like creating a machine of some sorts
that could make you time travel.
Yeah, like a time machine, or make a wormhole and get from one place to another, or something like that. And it going back to this, where you said like Enki is like we have everything within ourselves, right? We have everything that we need to create our own Merkaba, a natural Merkaba. Where Enlil is saying no, we can just create it out of a machine, or we can create it artificially. The business, right?
We've done that in many ways. Like quantum physics is kind of an Enlil route.
Yeah.
Like this whole talk about them like messing with warp drives now, and like how they have to like stretch the space and time in front of a ship in order for it to like move at what they call light speed or something like that.
Yeah.
I was reading this thing the other day and I was like, what the heck? This is dangerous. We don't even need this stuff.
This is dangerous. Yeah, that's still a few hundred years away.
Oh yeah. But they're theorizing it specifically lately,
Yeah. And the way technology moves, who knows? It could be fucking 10 years from now. But it still has that Enlil mentality of we can just make it based out of our specs by digging up the earth and mining these metals and making machines and become artificial.
Physical energy to do XYZ,
right,
instead of your spiritual energy.
Correct. Yeah, and it's crazy to think about it, right? Like you look at the world, like
this is gonna take 2 episodes, isn't it? I feel like there's still so much we didn't.
Yeah, it is. We're actually approaching an hour right now. We're
touch upon
57 minutes, so.
God, yeah. Like we just started talking about this Merkaba thing.
Yeah, I know, right?
And I wanted to get into how the Lucifer experiment has been attempted twice.
I think 3 times.
That according to things we've researched.
Yep.
And how it's affected places that it's failed.
Right.
But again, that's a lot of information, and we're approaching an hour. Should we do a recap, or do you want to keep going?
I don't know. Let's see what else there is, but it's just I don't know. I guess we can recap a little bit. So
because we talked we
talked in little we definitely weaved a lot.
Yeah. So let's Cliff Notes version.
Cliff Notes version.
Yeah, we're talking about Enki and Enlil.
2 Anunnaki
and essentially them
Sumerian
being 2
gods.
Very different mentalities.
Yep, Enki was a very spiritual, Enlil's a very
egotistical.
Egotistical, very in the present and mechanical.
Self-absorbed, yeah.
Obviously had 2 different paths that they wanted the human race to take. Enki, being more benevolent, wanted to kind of nurture and take the human race to new levels, while Enlil just said, no, let's keep them as they are. And that's suppress.
Let's keep them plateaued.
Yeah, suppress the knowledge and not allow them to do it. Well, Enki says, fuck that, goes on his own pilgrimage or whatever, starts teaching this shit around, and then Enlil's going, no, fuck that. And then we have the kind of the ghost war, right? The serpent and the eagle, the serpent being Enki and Enlil being the eagle. And it's still going on today, which is, you could be seen in the cultures of past and even present.
Did you pull up the Mexican flag at all?
I haven't, actually.
Let's definitely pull that up, because that is a very
let's see, do I have
obvious.
there it is. Yes, this is a very obvious one.
It's literally a fucking eagle eating a snake.
Yep.
Like, the snake isn't, like, depicted to, like, be fighting back or doing anything to the eagle. The eagle is just owning the snake.
And I don't know, I actually haven't looked into the reasoning for this, but whoever the original artist was, I wonder if there is a form of, like a hidden kind of, like, not hidden knowledge, but like a hidden message here being like, we used to be Serpent, but now the eagle has come and taken us.
Yeah.
Like, that is like, the picture that we put up in the beginning of the show, I put up a picture of an actual eagle eating a real snake, which is on the screen right now. Like, if you actually look at that and then you look at the Mexican flag, it's literally pretty much the exact same thing in drawn format, right? So obviously this happens in nature, but is this just something somebody saw in nature? Is this something that represents something more, meaning like the snake is evil and then the bird is coming in and killing that evil? Is this Enlil's way of suppressing knowledge? You know, does the snake represent knowledge and the eagle represent power? Like, I actually don't know, but yeah, you're right.
You never know, man.
It's an incredible depiction of exactly the story, and I'm sure there is more to the story. I just haven't got around to reading it yet. So if anyone knows that story of the Mexican flag, the eagle and the snake,
we'd love to hear it.
Yeah, obviously put it in the comments.
Send us an email, whatever.
Yeah, we'll probably do a recap on another show or something like that.
Yeah,
but,
I mean, we're gonna have to do a part 2 of this, aren't we?
Well, at least get into
maybe not next episode, but
the Merkaba and that. Cause, yeah, we even touched a little bit upon it, like Sophia, the goddess Sophia, creating the demiurge, which ended up being Lucifer, who has all these pretty cool stories about, you know, the angels coming down and having sex with the mortals, creating giants, and then like this is way more that goes into like the story, like, and then you start to think about, do the giants tie into like the titans of myth, and then you have the giants were also, Anunnaki was also depicted as giants, right? So like I said before, like on top of the show, I mentioned that the more research I do, the more I end up finding out. I was trying to go as far back as I could, and then Enki and Enlil was as far back as I could to find that duality that exists today. But ultimately, they would have been created out of the demiurge, meaning the angels that came down had sex with the mortal women. Was Enki and Enlil those hybrids? Yeah, those hybrids.
That would make sense because they were depicted as like almost hybrid-y, weren't they? Enki and Enlil?
Well, they were human, but they were very large humans. Remember, they had a
pull up this picture here.
Remember, like
yeah, we've shown a couple
on the tablets. Yeah, it was like a.
And I mean, it wasn't confirmed that was Enki or Enlil, but it's much larger. And then you have the tiny, normal humans.
Or regular humans, not tiny.
Yeah, well, yeah, like regular humans, like just across from it, almost like worshipping it. And it's sitting in that huge chair.
The huge throne, and we, does it depict them? I don't know because I can't read cuneiform, but from what I know, that's Enki and Enlil are those two characters.
Yeah.
So I hope that's because that's what we've been putting up.
I mean, let's keep in mind, guys, that all of this is, if we had to label it something, theory. We don't have any proof of this. It all makes a hell of a lot more sense than the usual bullshit that we're fed, but that still doesn't mean it's true. So I don't want to, deal with anybody messaging us and being like, you guys are... We're just talking.
We're just talking, yeah. We
find this stuff fascinating.
We're using the artificial Merkaba to...
Shit, we are.
to use...
We should just end the episode right now.
Yeah.
Bye.
We're using the artificial Merkaba to spread the word of Enki about the natural Merkaba that you could create.
We're using a product of Enlil to spread suppressed knowledge that Enlil has suppressed about Enki. Oh, okay, I can't even keep up.
Yeah, we should probably end on that note. So, for anyone that try to follow this through, maybe. Hopefully we described it well. If we need more clarification, we probably have to revisit some of it. Some pretty cool things. I don't know, for whatever reason, I just had this idea. I created some shirts for the ZF store. Put them up on screen right now.
Bigger podcast. I haven't even seen these.
Oh yeah, you haven't seen them, right? Open it up in the new tabs. I have them open up. This is a Team Enki t-shirt, and then I got a Team Enlil t-shirt, obviously with the eagle.
Why
and the
would you
serpents.
even make an Enlil one?
Because you know what? Some people are Team Enlil, right? Pretty cool shirts. They're pretty. They have on the side. Let's see. I can show you the side patch there. I can't get too big there, but actually there's a yin yang there with an eagle fighting a serpent.
In the yin yang?
In the yin yang, yeah.
Get out of here.
Yep, it's pretty cool. And then there's the Team Enlil shirt with the eagle on it, and then the Yankee one also has the serpent there. It's more of like a Mayan style serpent with the same patch on the side there. You can get them in the ZFG store, ZFGeneration.com/store or /shop, I believe. Either way, just go to ZFGeneration.com. You'll be able to find them. Right now, we only have white, just because I think that's the only thing we could get at this moment. So we're probably going to be doing some dark shirts, probably like some black and even maybe like a blue. Who knows? But you can pick them up in the store, and hopefully we're going to have some more cool stuff in the store based on our...
How much you want to bet you sell more of the Enlil ones just because there's a fucking eagle on it?
I don't know. People don't even know what...
Dude.
People don't want to be associated with Enlil. Who knows?
How do you know?
Maybe, yeah. You know, fucking. Well, there's people like you said, people like our own president. Like he's already a billionaire. He's definitely Team Enlil, right? He's engrossed into that model of.
What are we talking about? Trump again?
Yes.
Yeah, and he's like cutting education. He's shutting down national forests. Like he's just so.
I don't think he has an agenda, but it's just.
Oh, motherfucker!
It's just.
An agenda.
It's just the way his thought process is, or just in general, just the thought process of America and the eagle, right? It's the eagle.
So when can I get one of these shirts?
All right, so I guess that's it, right?
That's it, man.
That's it. All right. Well,
till next time, guys. We'll try not to take as long for another episode. No promises that we're gonna do the second part of this podcast next time, but it's coming.
No, yeah, and if we do, we'll probably link it somehow to we'll say link to this episode if you want to see part 1.
Yeah.
Because who knows?
We'll
Things
make sure
change.
you're not totally lost.
Things change all the time.
Thanks, guys.